It was 1986, and Christina Superstar was making a name for herself as a wild performer at Tunnel Nightclub and as an about-town socialite with an affected German accent and an off-the-wall manner of speaking. You can see all of Christina's videos on Nelson Sullivan's 5 9th Avenue Project YouTube channel, link below. Christina was at the height of her beauty and was traveling in a social circle of fascinating artists, performers, and personalities. Christina was in her prime. Her live shows and her popularity had made her a draw for the audiences at Tunnel and at Pyramid Club. Christina Superstar could feel that 1986 was going to be her year, and thanks to a select few of her friends, it was. Then, by the end of 1987, Christina would become a New York nightlife legend after rumors erupted and there were allegations of violence at her birthday party show at Tunnel Nightclub, which would decades later become a nightlife urban legend. Stay tuned for part 2 of Christina's compelling life and times in 1980s New York City. This is Christina Superstars Biography. Christina had developed a close friendship with promoter Andy Anderson. Andy's nickname for Christina was Tina, a nickname that would spread throughout Anderson's inner circle. In fact, it was through Anderson that Christina would meet Tish Gervais, Warhol superstar Holly Woodlawn, and most notably, legendary videographer Nelson Sullivan. But Anderson wasn't the only promoter who was backing Christina. She had also caught the eye of a young Michael Alig. After persuading the owner of Tunnel, Alig's first party, a filthy mouth contest, was a huge success, and in short order, he crowned Christina as the it girl of 1986, recognizing in Christina a valuable asset to Alig's future plans. Shortly afterward, on February 1st, 1986, Christina and Andy Anderson arrived early at Danceteria before one of her shows. They were there to have their caricatures drawn by artist Ivan Jensen, who was still years away from having his paintings auctioned at Christie's. Also there with Christina and Andy was Lori Gursky and Nelson Sullivan. Later that evening, Andy Anderson introduced Christina before her show at Danceteria as his very good friend. Not to be outdone, as Christina stepped up onto the stage, she reintroduced herself to the crowd as their it girl for 1986, before promptly breaking the microphone. Then, on April 1st of that year, the well-connected Andy Anderson hosted a fabulous party at Nirvana. Christina was Anderson's guest at the party that boasted a fabulous view of Times Square. The party was also attended by Nelson Sullivan and Fenton Bailey, and can be viewed at 5 9th Avenue Project YouTube channel, link below. Since Lori had moved out of Christina's apartment, Christina had been redecorating, creating her own private dungeon, because some of Christina's best performances were in her role as dominant, and she was in high demand as she had many submissives. Lori Gursky would later describe this as Christina's real passion. On her nights out in the meatpacking district of New York City, there was no entourage and the camera was not invited. Although very quickly, Christina's apartment filled up with whips and crops and the other tools for her other secret life. As 1986 came to a close, Christina made the most of her last days as the It Girl. Then, as 86 gave way to 1987, Christina continued to be a popular performer with New York City audiences. 1987 was also the year that Christina and videographer Nelson Sullivan would forge a one-on-one friendship outside of Andy Anderson or Tish Gervais. The two would become very close by the end of that year. But not all of Nelson Sullivan's circle was happy about the new, closer relationship that Nelson was developing with Christina. Many of Sullivan's friends were more than a little resistant to new up-and-comers in the scene. Sullivan had faced pushback several times before. Michael Alig would later recount that several of Nelson Sullivan's friends objected one Thanksgiving when Nelson invited Michael Alig and subsequent It Girl Julie Jules over for dinner. They were not part of the wider clique, and ultimately, Sullivan had to put his foot down to end the argument. The way that Nelson's friends reacted to his friendship with Christina was similar to the way that they had reacted to Michael Alig. In fact, by the end of 1987, Christina was merely being tolerated by the majority of Nelson Sullivan's circle. But even more, there was a growing disdain and even hostility for Christina by many of the other personalities and performers in the New York City nightlife scene. There was a feeling that her 15 minutes of fame was up, and she was now merely a bizarre spectacle to be mocked and ridiculed. And she was. These sentiments exploded on a December night at Tunnel Nightclub that would become a New York City nightlife legend about that one night that a toxic blonde trans with a German accent completely lost her shit and started swinging a large knife around at the audience during one of her shows. It was Christina's 1987 birthday party. The December event would become an urban legend in the New York City nightlife scene. But the reality of what went down that night would turn the legend on its ear and raise serious questions about the motivations of those in attendance that night. And it's all thanks to Nelson Sullivan, who recorded the events that went down that night at Tunnel in one of his most prolific and revealing films, Christina's Birthday Party. In its almost 20-minute runtime, it reveals much about those who were there that night, and much about Christina Superstar herself. And the guest list was a who's who of New York nightlife, including recording artist Larry T, Wigstock creator Lady Bunny, drag performer Happy Face, Wigstock performer and visual artist Taboo, DJ Kioki, future Club Kid King Michael Alig, and of course, Nelson Sullivan. Christina was supposed to perform a pre-recorded musical number, but as she took her place on the stage, the other performers quickly made it clear that Christina's show would not be going on as planned. The other performers on stage began to interject, asking ridiculous questions and trying to provoke Christina. When this proves unsuccessful, Christina is told that the tape she brought to perform to cannot be found. Unmoved, Christina Superstar stops cooperating and returns to her seat on the stage, while her fellow performers and some of the audience begin to taunt her and ask her further questions, taunting Christina to perform Jumping Jack Flash. This request for Christina to perform Jumping Jack Flash would become an ongoing joke for some, but there would end up being very serious consequences later on. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads from Retro Room. They brought out the birthday cake for Christina, which read, "Happy Birthday, Christian." As the show deteriorated, the crowd sings a rendition of Happy Birthday to You, and then Christina ends up having her birthday cake smashed into her face. In the full 20-minute video, there is no evidence that Christina even had a knife, or became violent with either the audience or her fellow performers. There was, however, a hammer present, which Christina did say was hers. The general reaction online to Nelson Sullivan's recording of Christina's birthday is both sadness and disgust. Here are what some of the top comments said from the videos of that night. Well, there you have it. I've been watching these videos for years, loving and adoring, and this is the first time I've seen them for what they are. What a vile way to treat someone on their birthday. She was treated badly and humiliated at this party. Even though Christina was off her face, she would have felt it. The shot of the birthday cake dropped on the floor really gets me. R.I.P. Christina. They are ridiculing Christina. She is being tortured at her own birthday party with her friends. Shame on them for doing this. Any of them still living should be embarrassed of their behavior that night. Although this night was not the first time Christina was tormented and ridiculed by her peers, this event would have a direct impact on the direction that Christina's life was about to take. By the end of 1987, Christina had become a local legend, and she had held her head high amongst all of the drama and jealousy, plowing ahead with her newfound infamy. And as 1988 approached, some of her best days were still to come, but so too were the worst. Join us next time for part 3 of Christina Superstars Biography. Well, that's pretty much it for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on part 3 of Christina Superstars Biography. I'll see you next time.